Natasha Melody. I am 32 years old. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And something fun about me, I'm very mysterious, but I'm a free spirit once you get to know me. After I came to terms with that and said to my mom, hey, number one, my freshman year, mind you, of high school, I'm gay. Number two, beyond being gay, I think that I want to be a woman. And then number three, I'm giving you no choice. I'm going to be a woman, timeline and everything. And I stuck very, very hard to that timeline. By the time I graduated from high school, I would be Natasha.
When you actually verbalized this to your mother,
Mm-hmm.
what was her initial reaction?
My mom, she wasn't receptive to it because she was really, really hardcore into the church, the word. And it was tough for us. I think that she wanted it to be a joke. And so when she realized that it was not, she got over it. And I think that she made it so easy for me with my other family members, like her husband and my little brother, aunts and uncles and things like that. My mother has been like the backbone of my transition. A lot of the things that I have done, for example, my first breast implants, my mom took care of that. You know what I mean? So she has really helped me a lot along the way, even down to in the time of my career, why I went the path that I went. She was, all of that for me. I kind of really looked up to her. And as a woman, when I think of a woman, I look to women like my mother, and there's another young lady named Brandy and another young lady named Victoria. But there are women that, I kind of really, really looked up to growing up. And I knew that, hey, that's the woman that I think that I am or I wanted to be. So
I think that we deal with a lot of times, and this other guy actually had a name for it in my other interview. He called it othering. And that's where you hear people say stuff about other people that are close to you. Like you hear people close to you say stuff about other people. So with people being gay, queer, trans, or whatever, hearing all those little opinions and thoughts and everything like that, like you start to internalize that. So it makes it hard for you to be able to come and talk to whoever your mom or your grandmother or whoever that is. Like, and I never really thought about it. And I was like, because it's not even just you coming out to your mom. Hopefully your mom or your parent, whoever your parent rental unit is that you stay with, hopefully they are receptive to it, because at the end of the day, you also have to deal with the other family members. And like you said, she made it easy for the other family members, because I could imagine thinking like, I just told her, so now I have to deal with
telling 50 other people,
like continuously, repeatedly coming out. Yeah.
Right.
Like, so that's very heartwarming for me, because I understand it's going to be hard at first for most parents, especially from our era. It is going to be hard. Yeah.
My sophomore year of college, I wrecked my car and I had to get a rental. And so I went home and we were at Enterprise and, whatever. I was Natasha, all of that good stuff, paperwork, everything. So my mom was standing beside me and she says to the man was flirting with me. We were talking about what school I went to, all that good stuff. And he said, he asked me like my name again. And he just was like, hey, that's your number. And my mom interrupted and said, my son. And continued to say whatever she was saying. But the fact that she was just like, I was like, ma'am. I just turned away and just went outside and let her finish the business. I was so upset, but nothing like that ever happened again after the conversation we had.
My name is Rizzo. I am originally from Florida. I currently reside in North Carolina. I've been here the majority of my adulthood. I am gay. It's been a long time before I could actually say that. I am gay. I don't know how to see. I'm one of them weird ones though. I'm just gonna jump straight into it. Yes, I am gay. I do think women are beautiful though. Like I really do. I'm attracted to them to a certain extent, but we can get there later on. Let me see what else you said though. Oh no, I do identify as he him. I do identify as he him. Depending on my setting, I will turn into a they. So, and I'm absolutely okay with that. I'm open to it. I do drag also. So when I'm in that persona, I'm definitely she her. So when I tell you I hold the umbrella and I support everything up under it because I'm basically everything up under it. So that's basically me in a nutshell.
You the American dream.
Well, growing up, I had a great life. I really did. I had a great life. My parents, they provided everything that I ever needed. They gave me that and more. I did not, however, have a life growing up gay. I didn't. I was not able to grow up gay. Like that was not even an option. Honestly, I hid it within myself for years. When I say years, like getting ready to go into college before I was like, let me even see what this thought is that I've been having since I was a kid, but never really never really like indulged in it simply because I was raised off of fear of being gay. That's one of the things that, we just didn't talk about. That was that taboo that, was of the world. And any of the people that know, like raised up in the church, black family, dad is a pastor, always have been. That was just something that, we just did not. They didn't even really have to talk to us about it because they already knew that we knew better. So
We knew the expectation.
yeah, so like it wasn't even no like sit downs, no talks, and none of that. We just automatically knew that this was something that we couldn't talk about. So, but yeah, other than that, like I had like a really really great life. Um, just aside from not being able to truly experience the life how I really wanted to, you know.
So when I just recalled that you just said about you when you started realizing that you started maybe having the same feelings for the same sex. What age was that?
Man, I can actually tell you the exact day when I realized what gay was. I was 7 years old. It was my older brother, my older cousin. They were in a room. They were talking about somebody being gay, and I was like, "What is that?" As a kid, 7 years old, I'm like, "What is that? What y'all talking about?" And they was like, "Man, that's when two boys like each other." I remember my cousin looking at my brother like, "That's like we liking each other. We wanting to kiss on each other." And I started thinking like, dang, I do like this boy at school. So I think I'm gay, but I could totally tell the way that they was acting. There's no way I can even go into it. So I immediately jumped to, oh my God, what? Like even as a kid to jump to it and for my immediate reaction to be ill. That was my immediate reaction. When they told me, first thing, ill was what came out of my mouth.
That's crazy. As kids, we know. That's why I've been seeing these things about like it was like kids know more than people like to let them alone because a lot of times us as queer kids we know
Mm-hmm.
what to say to get through to the next
Oh
part.
yeah,
Like we
big
know what
time.
today we know what situation we're gonna say. Okay, all right, I know this ain't right, so I know
Mm-hmm.
I need to go the other way, or I need to be
Big
with what they
time.
saying. I need to be down with them. So that's crazy.
Big
Like as
time.
kids, we even have to develop that type of I guess thought process or intellectualism enough to be able to decipher which situation you're gonna be okay with and which situation you're not. That's crazy.
People really wonder why are a lot of gay and lesbian people, why are we so witty, why are we so like we have very smart mouths at times. Nigga, we've been learning to speak like this forever. Like forever, to think off the sly. What's some shit I can say real quick? Oh, excuse me, we've been through this like what, and I keep saying we because I know I speak for a multitude of people. Even right now, I can like, I ain't gonna list them, but I can really count them out on my hands and toes. How many people I was raised with that I grew up with that are still stuck in that life? Like to this day, they are married, children, preaching the gospel. They're doing everything they need to do, but I know for a fact that they are miserable. They are.
So yeah, like that's I know some as well. Like even like people that I might have known, like we might have known about each other when we were younger. Like even
Mm-hmm.
to have them grow up now, I'm looking like I wonder because some things I do feel like people get boys experiment too, and that's another thing that people don't really like look at it like. But boys experiment too. So
Mm-hmm.
with that being said, I do think I know some people. they was just experimenting. They probably ain't gay or queer or whatever. They were just experimenting.
Absolutely.
But then
Oh
some
yeah.
people I'm looking like, we know each other. We see each
Big time. It's
yeah,
true.
we see each other. So it's just like, yeah, but they still be stuck in their own little thing. And I
Mhm.
don't know. So another thing I was saying, like, well, I have best friends that live in DC,
Mhm.
and yeah, my best friend from DC. So one of the things that he was always telling us about, like, they be gay when they be younger. Like, they elementary school, they be gay up there.
Yeah.
And it's not even really that much north, but it's just
Mhm.
north of the South.
Yeah. Big
So
time.
yeah, like, so they be gay, like, but us down here, that shit have a hold. If it get a hold on you and you don't break from it, it will hold you in your
Oh
spot.
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, from for like a long time, like for a very long time, and like I don't know, like it's truly a cultural difference. Like when I like my best friends, they too live in DC, and it really is a whole nother world. Like it's like totally different. Like we can relate on a lot of things, being black and being gay. We can still relate on a lot of it, but
Right.
the whole growing up aspect, it is totally different. They got videos twerking down, with their family at the cookout, showing out, getting gassed up. Not me. I'm on the wall with some sunglasses, looking, just looking, being
And it was
infamous.
and there was a point where I was dancing, doing all of that stuff too. And then when you get that self-awareness, or you introduce the shame, I
Hmm.
think that's what it is. It's like that shit, it cut out. And now
Oh yeah.
you go with the flow, you move with the traffic.
I'm Diamond. I'm 29. Oh, I fucked up already. I'm not 29 anymore. I am 30. I am a lesbian. And I find myself very creative.
How was it growing up for you, like, as a queer child?
Um, for me, I guess I feel like I always knew. So, I guess the curiosity was there, but trying to live up to everybody else's expectations. I guess I just went with a normal thing for a while
And what was the normal thing?
to have a boyfriend.
So you had a boyfriend.
Yeah. So, and I didn't come out until I was 15.
So my name is Denzel. I'm 26 from St. Louis, Missouri. I am. I identify as genderqueer, so my pronouns are they, them, and then I go by she, her, and then I go by he, him. Um, I don't know. I'm a gay individual. I wouldn't say that I was like, I guess, queer or whatever. Um, what's an interesting fact about myself? I feel like I have a lot of interesting facts. I feel like this. I am complex like a painting in a museum. Like there's so much to me. I can't just like try to sum it up in like one little sentence or like a short bio. It was very. It had like some good moments and then it had some really bad moments. Me and my mother really don't get along because of my childhood, because of the abuse that she stemmed onto me um, through dealing with her own personal trauma, and it just was a fucking mess. It was heartbreaking, honestly. Honestly, I feel like a lot of people wouldn't have like wouldn't have been able to handle some of the things that I had went through with my mother. Like my mother, she used to make me sit outside in the cold. So like she took my house key and I would have to sit outside for her to get home. And I would be sitting outside in the snow. I used to sit outside in the hottest of summer days. It was a lot of stuff that happened. A lot of talking about me behind my back, a lot of talking about me to my little cousins, trying to like diminish my character as a person. It was a lot of, and it wasn't just her. Honestly, it was pretty much all of my family. Like it was my uncles. My uncles were involved in it. My aunties were involved in it. It was a lot of people involved, and a lot of people who could have been like, you shouldn't be treating your child like this. Oh, wooty wooty woo. And it was just a lot of like, oh well, that's not my child, or they felt like I deserved it because I was a queer individual, which was it's very crazy.
Give me some ages.
Okay, so we moved to like the St. Louis area around when I was like 7 years old, 6 or 7. So like that's the first grade. I remember her asking me, "Did I like boys?" around that time, and I didn't know what that really meant. And then when I got older, around like middle school age, I'm gonna say like 12, 13, that's when I actually came out because I actually had the language to do so. And then that's kind of where our relationship really took a huge turn. Because once I put like how I was feeling into words, I think it became too real for her. Like I feel like as a parent, you can see certain things about your child, you can tell certain things, but when they put it into language, it's a different story. Like it becomes real. So like our relationship really went down. Where one time I was like 15, and she had found like a condom wrapper in my room, right? And it wasn't because I was having sex. I was like just playing with the condoms. And the next thing I know, she came home with a bunch of like pamphlets on AIDS, and like she just threw them on my bed. And I honestly I took that as disrespectful because she never sat down and had like that conversation with me about AIDS. Even though I knew what AIDS was, I knew all of that, but like she never had that conversation with me. And even if she did feel uncomfortable, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, maybe she felt uncomfortable. I feel like this: if you have a kid and you had sex to have that child, you should be able to talk about sex with that child. And if you do feel 100% uncomfortable, I always recommend like taking your child to their doctor and having their doctor have that conversation with them, because that's what a doctor does. And then like especially a children's doctor, so they understand children, so they know how to put certain stuff into certain language, you know. So I felt like that was just disrespectful. There was a lot of moments where she called me on multiple different occasions. There's like suicide in my story, like different suicide attempts. I've tried to kill myself at least 4 times. The first time I was in the 8th grade. I tried to kill myself. I had the rope. It's crazy because every time I'm about to kill myself, it's like I have like a spiritual experience. So like all of this kind of ties itself together. So the first time I tried to, oh, and it's a trigger warning for suicide people. I'm just, you know, but I first tried to kill myself. It was no, it wasn't the 8th grade. It was the 7th grade. I remember getting the rope and tying it up on the beam. And like when I was about to do it, I heard like this voice, like this. I don't even know. I can't even say if it was a man's voice or a woman's voice. I just heard a voice and it was like, "Be still, child." Like chill out. And I remember just crying. Like I spent like almost 2 hours crying, and I could not stop crying. That first time, and it just childhood was rough. That's just the encompass of everything. It was rough, tough, and a lot of people don't see that about me. When you first meet me, you don't see that because I don't show that. Like, and it's not because I'm ashamed or anything. It's just because the trauma was a part of the story. It isn't the story. So I shouldn't be sitting around looking like the trauma that I've been through.
My name is Bree Starr. I am 30, mid 30s. I like to be discreet about my age just to be funny. Yeah, I am a published psychologist. I define myself as somewhere between messy and educational. Um, I'm I'm a ratchet girl who grew up in the hood, who was always gifted with book smarts, and I've been using it to my advantage ever since. I've been using my intellect as a hustle, and now got some TikTok attention. So I'm trying to see what this public figure, social commentator life is about to be like. And at the same time, I just want to be a positive representation for Black trans women. Ooh, child, honey. Um, I'm gonna say this first, but I will say that Cambridge, Maryland, prepared me to be a star for real. If I do end up, or when I end up getting where I'm going, if I do end up blowing up and being really successful, really famous, Cambridge prepared me for all of that. Cambridge prepared me for the haters, the trolls, the hard knocks. I'm from the Eastern Shore, very small town, very rural. very country, very hood, very ratchet, all of those things, all at the same time. Um, I was always the sore thumb. You know, I always stuck out. Um, and I was really soft initially. I was really soft. Um, I was overprotected because they knew at a really young age. My family have admit now they knew at a really young age that I was queer. It was very apparent. I come from a very open minded family. Fortunately, my family is non religious, multi ethnic. Um, so they accepted my queerness, but they knew it was going to be hard for the rest of the world to. And that they overprotected me, kept me away from everything. And, but the niggas in my family, the niggas, the ones that you hear about in rap songs, you know, I was raised by gangsters. That's not no bullshit, you know. And they was like, yeah, we know who you are, but you can't be this soft. Like I was that kid. My first couple of fights growing up, I literally let the people beat me up because I didn't want to hurt them. I'm not that girl today,
Hello.
but no, like my uncles, I felt like they were trying to at the time. I felt like they were trying to like beat the queerness out of me or batter the queerness out of me. But looking back, you know, from an adult perspective, they were just teaching me how to fight. They were just teaching me how to defend myself, and they weren't abusing me because now I work in the system. I know what abuse looks like. That's not what it was. You know, my older cousins and my uncles who weren't much older than me, um, yeah, they taught me how to fight, and they left me alone after one day it clicked. I had you know, they had the big dogs had to intervene. I was get ready to slice my uncle up. And they was like, oh yeah, no. You know, I was a target for bullies and all of those things. And it wasn't just because I was queer. That was something that they could use to pick at. But it wasn't just because I was queer. It was because I was spoiled. I was hood rich. You know, the big time hustlers were my uncles and my stepfather and my, you know.
Right.
Um, so the kids didn't like that. They also didn't like the unconditional support because a lot of them wasn't getting that at home. You know, a lot of my queer peers who have come out to me since, it was not or would not be accepted if they do come out to their family. You know, so that was that. Ended up coming out in the seventh grade as gay, so that they couldn't use that to pick on me. Um, I became the kid that used to beat up the bullies. Got put out of school for beating up the bullies. Went to alternative school. Um, Came back in high school. They tried to ignore and downplay my intellect. Um, Several teachers advocated for me that I shouldn't have had to stay in high school for the whole 4 years because I didn't need it.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I had a teacher, shout out Mrs. Howe, who advocated for me. Shout out Mrs. Heidi Newcomb. They advocated for me like this child should be in the accelerated program. Like, what are y'all doing? But looking back, I know it was because I was black and from the hood, and
Hmm.
my parents were who they were. They didn't want to accelerate a child that came from my background, you know. And all the cases, the fat cases that went down in '97, the drug dealing fat cases. My stepfather got caught up with that, so they didn't want this to be
Okay,
a
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
star child. You know what I mean? But once I got to college and took college serious, then it was undeniable, and from there, my psychology career started.
My name is Brock. I'm 43, just turned 43, and my pronouns are he and him. And my identify as I guess gay.
Okay.
Today, like how I identify like varies from day to day, but mainly gay.
That's real. So that's real. Like as I've came into it, I've realized that it is very I'm more like I'm really more fluid than anything because I do like women. I always like I'm probably more emotionally gay. Like I probably would end up with a guy more so, but
Yeah.
I am into I'm down with trans, male or female. I haven't necessarily been with a trans female. I have been with a trans man though, and that was a good experience. So,
Mm,
but I still like girls too. So but I found out the language for all of this like later on in life. So it's just like, yeah. Now I'm set in my
yes.
ways, so now I'm not about to like pretend to be something else to get with no girl. So if she like it, she
Right.
like it. She does, she does.
Right. Yeah, it's like now. It's like I guess with all the terminology coming out and stuff, it's like you can pinpoint, I guess, like how you identify
Or at least
or
get close to it.
yeah, yeah. Because like I some days like I was saying, like I just feel like some days like I identify as asexual. Some days I identify as like, well, I always kind of identify as like queer. I'm not going to turn it down, I guess.
I think with that because happiness is the goal at a certain
Right.
point, and I think because our like we don't have stories where this person been with this person since high school. I'm sure there are some out there, but that's like less than 1%. So
Yeah.
we have a lot of rushed situations in a short period of time, a lot of times. And you don't get so by the time you get to your part where you be like, all right, you know what, let me might chill out or whatever you feel like you when you figure out what you really want, what you really want to do. By that time, it's like now you just like I want to be happy because there's a bunch of bullshit out there. So
Right.
so it don't
Right.
really matter. So if this person really checking for me, this person really fucking with me,
Yeah.
and I can get into it, we can get into some,
Right.
you know,
Right.
that's fine. We can get
All
started
right.
though. If it come back to you, just let
Right.
me know.
Okay. Right.
So for starters, tell me about your childhood. Tell me about your experience growing up.
Um, like my childhood, like it was pretty good. I'm the oldest of four boys. I have three younger brothers, but I kind of like as a little age differences. I kind of like makes me like I was born in '79. My brother was born after me. He was born in '82. So it's kind of like a an age gap or whatever. But anyway, so I spent a lot of time like um being I used to like be into fashion and stuff, and like I started like drawing designs and stuff. And so one time we used to go to my aunt's house like in the summertime. She used to babysit us. So one time um I like drew some designs, and then like I made them like did like a fashion show, but like they was from the designs and they came out or whatever. So it was like I think now they like resent me for like being them doing this stuff when they were younger, but
You were talking about
you know,
acting and dancing, and
yeah,
those are the quote unquote things that usually be like, I don't know.
right, yeah. It's like, but I think like that my family like knew that that's how that I was like different. I guess you could say.
Hmm.
So like, and they know I didn't really like sports or anything at the time. I didn't really want to play any sports or anything at the time. So I mean, I wasn't really like pushed to like um to do those things. Um, it was just sometimes like when my mom and dad was still together. My dad he would be like, um, "You spend too much time in the house. Go outside. Go outside." But I think that was just like a a because he was from the country, so he just
That's what you
started
do.
doing
Yeah.
stuff.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
You
So
go outside.
yeah.
My name is Karan. Everybody calls me Shorty. I'm 41. Ooh, that sounds wow out loud. Um, I don't know a little bit about myself. I identify as gay. I am a gay black male. I've been out since I was 17. Um, I'm a mentor to some gay youth. Uh, and other than that, I just be me. That's it. I mean, I don't really know. I move around a lot. If that's a thing, you know. So I have had the ability to see different people in different areas, you know, because I've moved around so much. So I've been able to kind of like adapt to different ways of like the South or New York or Chicago and stuff like that, just from based upon that part. So that's just a little bit about me. Born to a crackhead mom and a drug dealer dad. Um, and they weren't together. So growing up was kind of rough, moving from family member to family member. So I stayed with my grandma for most of my youth up to about 11. Then my grandma died, and then it was just like um, homelessness, from time to time. Then family member, and then around 14 or 15, my mom moved me to Cleveland. I ran away a couple times. Came back to New York. Tried to graduate high school, but I didn't. So I just dropped out, got a GED, so I can start working. Because I was like, you know what I'm saying? This school don't mean much. Um, and in that time, I got introduced. I would say since about 16, 17, I've been legit on my own. So I had stumbled on a bathroom one day, like I was going into the mall and I had seen two dudes at the stall and I was like, oh shit, it's popping. I've always had thoughts about it, but I never really seen it in action. And then I finally seen it in action. So I started with it, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, I'm not gay because I'm not, I'm not doing nothing. They just fucking, they just doing me, you know? So I was like, I didn't think anything of it. Then I started going all the time, and then I met somebody. They introduced me to the village, so now you 18, 19, and you outside, so it's like, it's a whole nother world, And then my mom had got breast cancer. So uh, I had moved back to Cleveland to help take care of her. And I met, I met my first partner and, you know, became real into like the ballroom scene and gay life, but I wasn't really out like that.
All of this is taking place in New York
Yeah,
City.
New York City. So I was on the boat. I was like having sex in the mall, having sex on the boat, having like going to sex parties, like parks. It was wow. It was just like it was there. You know what I'm saying? I felt invincible. You know what I mean? I felt like couldn't. I mean, at that point, I really didn't feel like I had anything to live for, so it really didn't matter. You know what I'm saying? So it was just like, at least I got the nut. You know what I mean? So it was like that.
Why did you feel like that?
Cause I'm like, I got two parents. They don't care about me. There's my grandma was. I felt the only person who loved me, and when she passed, it was like nobody loves me. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, if the people that put you on the earth don't love you, then no one else can love you. You know what I'm saying? So everybody was looking for love and for stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't know how that feels. I've never, at 41, I've never hugged my mother in my entire life. I don't know what a motherly hug is. I've never hugged my mother a day in my life. Never, not one. I haven't talked to my mother in 10 years. Right? She's still alive. She's still living. I have not talked to her lady in 10 years. I just started talking to my father maybe a month ago, and he told me he loved me for the first time in my entire life. So
That's interesting because I've seen you post them before
yeah,
and
like
all of that.
just for because I don't care what anybody says, no matter how much you may not get along with your parents, you want your parents in your life. No matter what it is, you want them in your life. And to see people that go home for like Thanksgiving and Christmas, and you like, well, I'll just be in the house because I ain't got nowhere to go. You
Mhm.
know, it takes a toll on you sometimes. You know what I'm saying? And then that's where the mental health part plays in because now you're like, am I ever gonna overcome this hurdle? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
My name is Marcus. I am 39 years old. I keep forgetting that sometimes. I am 39 years old. Originally from Jackson, Mississippi, so a very southern upbringing and background. I have lived in a whole bunch of different fucking places and done a whole lot of shit. But I've been an educator for this is my 17th year, and so outside of that, I'm writing, reading something, singing something, or just minding my fucking business. So that is who I am in a nutshell. I say I grew up in a really southern black Christian family, which is always weird because the intersections of your identity like show up in so many ways. I've been probably a church queen probably for like 30 years of my life, and then as an adult decided to like get away from it. But I started off in a family that is a softball family. We traveled a lot. My parents and my mom, sisters and brothers, like they all play softball, so we travel with my grandparents a lot. Um, I'm on the younger side of my generation. I have like 38 first cousins. So I have cousins who are like in their 50s and going on their 60s. And
Wow.
I'm on the bottom end of that because the span of my mom's siblings and my dad's siblings like is really vast. Um, but once my parents found Jesus, we were in church every time the doors opened. I mean, like vacation Bible school, any classes they had on Saturday mornings, like anything. I was in every single choir. And so like church became a big part of my identity growing up. Um, and it was strange because that's the only way that I saw myself for like so many years. The church became like a big part of my identity between the ages of like 5 and 28, 29. Like that was who I was. I am one of two children. So like it was only me and my little brother in my house. My parents were very hands on. They were the ones who were at every parent teacher conference, every performance, every sports game, um, all of it. And we were like the family that ate dinner at the table every day because my mom wanted to know about my day and my dad wanted to ask us questions. And that became also like a big part of like how I view family and relationships with people. So we broke bread at the table every day. I wasn't allowed to eat in my rooms. I'm talking about like super southern, like you can't take no food in your room. Our parents didn't let us listen to certain things or like watch certain things, like very much like a southern Christian upbringing. And so there was always this conflict, this dissonance with me about like how I identified sexually because I really didn't know. I was a virgin until I was 23. And so the first person that I had sex with was the woman that I was engaged to. And it was like, I always had this idea because of my upbringing that like, the moment you have sex before you get married, like the earth is going to open up and swallow you whole. You're going to be dragged down into hell because I mean, it was just a fear of my sexuality at that point. And like taking back sexual identity as I gotten older. A lot of pieces of my identity really revolve around like what people might declare like femininity. But my dad was like a superhero to me. Like he was not one of those people I think that was defined by like gender roles. Like when we got up on Saturday morning, like he was cooking and cleaning and had us like dusting furniture and had out the pledge and had us mopping floors. And then after we got done with that, it was time to go outside in the yard. So I never had like that conflict of like gender stereotypes growing up. Um, I also didn't have like a lot of queer role models, so like that part of my identity like wasn't a thing. I didn't know a lot of queer people growing up, and it wasn't because like there weren't any, but like I was very sheltered like growing up. The only queer person I remember growing up was my mom's hairdresser, and so
Mm.
as a child, I used to look at him like this is like the jobs that queer people have. Like these are the things that queer people can do to like fully be themselves. Like um, he was the only person that I saw my parents and my family accept as being queer. Because everybody else, it was just like, oh, this is an abomination. Y'all can go to hell.
Right.
Like, but Mr. Sammy, because he like slayed some hair and like did a French roll, like he was cool. Like that was it. And so he was the only person that I knew that was openly queer growing up. And so that was my identity. Like I thought that if I was gonna be openly gay, I had to be a hairdresser. Like that was the only thing that I got. And so I had to like debunk a lot of that. The dissonance with me and my sexuality, like being knowing like at a very early age that I was gay, right? Like a very early age. I mean like 7, 8.
What age? I was about to
Like
say what
7
age?
or 8, like knew for sure. Like this is who I am. Like this is what I would like to do. And so I spent a lot of time like trying to like hide that, especially like at school. It was a little bit easier because I was in a performing arts space, so like I could be creative and like it wasn't looked on as weird. You know, you go into some spaces and like people be like, "Oh, that's the weird artsy kid." Like model student, like I was into sports, like doing those same things that my friends were doing, and it just seemed like normal. Around the time I was like 8 or 9, I started. I had like some sexual trauma, so like I started being molested by one of my cousins, and so like that was like a trigger in like um, people like seeing you before you see yourself a lot of times, and then like preying on that. And so like it was a cousin of mine and his brother that would that molested me like for about 4 or 5 years. And so for a lot of my like teenage life, I thought that my queerness was a result of that, and not
Mm.
recognizing that like, boy, you was already gay. Like they saw that and they preyed on that. Like that ain't had nothing to do with like turning you this way or nothing. And so like I tried to fight it um all through high school, all through college. Like I dated girls and, you know, try to make sure like I dated the prettiest girl and all this stuff, but it was very much like me repressing my queer identity because of like how I grew up in church and things. Like childhood itself was um very restricted, like in a way that I try not to impress upon kids now, like as an adult, like giving them the freedom to like be joyful and be themselves regardless of like how that looks, because that's not something I really had. And so
Mm-hmm.
not to say that my parents were like bad parents or anything like that, but like they were doing what they knew and what they had been taught, and like trying to make sure that they were raising like strong children and all that. But it was very much me growing up a people pleaser, like trying to repress my identity as much as I possibly could, and like in fear of being found out or like shamed, and like what they would do to my family, because my family was like very, very involved in the church. Like my mom and all her sisters, like we all went to the same church. Like we still have a row that we sit on when I go to church back home. Like don't sit on our seat because that's where our family sits. And so that part of my identity has always been in conflict from childhood.